Irish voters' refusal to ratify the European Union's Lisbon Reform Treaty last month was a clear no. The other 26 EU member states had pretty much been hoping for the best. It's national government's business to manage the approval process at home. EU leaders are now wondering what went wrong. The Irish have such a stout reputation as pro-European.
One of the reasons was that neutrality is the foremost in my mind. That was it, neutrality. And we lose our independence from when we went so deep into Europe.
I didn't really understand everything about it, so I left it and I didn't vote.
There's a bit of confusion now, really, isn't there? I think it's probably up to the government now to go back and get a bit of clarity from the European leaders. I suppose in general it's a bit of a mess.
I felt that they did not give us enough information. That's one of the particular reasons. We would have liked a little more. And how can we believe what they're telling us when we heard so many lies over the years?
Fintan O'Toole from the Irish Times says both Dublin and Brussels underestimated how much the treaty bothered people in Ireland. And the politicians overestimated their own credibility in the voters' eyes.
A couple of weeks before the referendum, we had the former Prime Minister who was in charge of the country for 11 years up to this year, answering questions in a sworn inquiry in Dublin. People in the audience were laughing at the answers he was giving. That's not an atmosphere in which it's easy to turn around and say, trust us, we're the good guys. You don't really need to bother about this stuff very, very much. Just, we wouldn't lie to you, would we? It wasn't a very good message, and the alarming thing is they didn't seem to understand that at the time, and they don't really seem to understand it now.
Analysts say because of patchy information, lack of trust and political arrogance, Ireland is now the black sheep of Europe for everyone who was hoping to get the Lisbon Treaty ratified in all the 27 EU countries by the end of this year. Pádraig McMahon with the Irish Farmers Association voted in favour of the treaty, but only after the association won guarantees from the government that it would stand up for the farmers in world trade talks. He says Brussels has to do the same for other groups.
We have to fight for the farmers' interest. That's our job. And everyone has a different interest, but I think because our issues are so tied up in the European bureaucracy that, WTO is a huge issue. Fishermen obviously have a huge issue with, again, the catches and illegal catches and the diesel price and all that. But the way we can deal with that is within Europe, and that a response is shown by Europe to all these concerns, and a feeling that we're not just being left out there.
Dublin's docklands, with little to boast about 20 years ago, are resplendent today with modern buildings and construction sites thanks to Ireland's decades of economic boom. Thousands of foreign workers, mostly from new EU member states such as Poland and Latvia, flocked to pet the Celtic tiger. But SIPTU, Ireland's biggest trade union, voted against the Lisbon Treaty. Eric Fleming says recent rulings by the European Court of Justice have SIPTU worrying about social rights.
Absolutely, yeah. They would come in and it's left us in a position where we could be dealing with a massive problem of cheap labour on our shores, and it's transpired now that unless we get that commitment, particularly with regard to our own collective bargaining, we see too big a shift towards commerce and towards the enterprise element of Europe, and less towards the social Europe which we all bought into.
Many people frustrated with the no vote ask, where's the gratitude? European community funding helped Ireland climb from the bottom of the wealth ladder to near the top today. Most of the business community supported the treaty, but some argued the economic boom was thanks to low taxes on companies, and the treaty endangered that. Supporters said the treaty doesn't touch tax policy, but they had trouble getting their message across. Owen O'Brien with the nationalist Sinn Féin party that opposed the treaty says military neutrality was the main concern. He called for Lisbon to be renegotiated.
The treaty can't go ahead unless all 27 member states have ratified it. That's the rules of the European Union. I think one of the most worrying things is that some EU leaders and some former EU leaders have been saying that a second referendum in Ireland shouldn't be about Lisbon, it should be about Irish membership of the European Union. There was nobody campaigning on the no side who wants Ireland out of the EU. We believe our place is at the heart of Europe. And the idea of rerunning the referendum either just on Lisbon or under some kind of threat of expulsion from the EU is deeply undemocratic. And will really only serve to kind of deepen the democratic deficit that already exists, not only between Ireland and the EU, but within the EU as a whole.
Treaty supporters have argued over and over again that it will make the EU more democratic. They also say the treaty's not renegotiable. The Minister for European Affairs, Dick Roche, admits there's no easy solution.
There are various issues. This is a challenge for Ireland, and this is a challenge for Europe. And this is a very important crossroads, this is a very important point in Europe's development, because the message from the Irish people is very clear. But the underlying rationale for that message is less clear. We know that there are various issues which arose during the campaign and which certainly had an impact on the way citizens view this. We know, for example, even though people voted no, they were still very positive about Europe, and they felt that, oh, well, it all can be renegotiated. And of course, renegotiation all over again amongst 27 countries is really not an option.
1, 2, 3.
10 years ago, finding a salsa class in Dublin was unthinkable. But today, Joshua Amechi's classes are packed. It's not exactly river dance, but his style is so popular he was asked to choreograph last year's St. Patrick's Day parade. Full-blown Irish pageantry. It shows how Ireland has changed enormously, the EU too, and that politicians are out of step in not listening to their citizens.
All right. Okay. The no vote. You heard about it, everybody's talking about it, but yet they're going to carry on. So that's absolute disregard for the citizens of Europe. It's not about Ireland, because I'm actually of the opinion that if you give more European citizens a chance to vote, they'll vote it no. It's not about Ireland. So the slant that, oh, Ireland is not grateful is not true. Ireland is very grateful. Ireland loves Europe, because without Europe, a lot of things would have changed. But the decision makers, the politicians in Brussels, here, everywhere, should actually ask themselves, why are people so upset?
The Irish who voted no numbered less than 0.2% of the EU's total population, a drop in the ocean that rocked the boat. Now Poland's president has signalled he won't rubber stamp the country's parliamentary ratification. The treaty is facing choppy seas in the Czech Republic as well.